What's going on, gamers? It's Village here from Beneath the Veil, and welcome back to the channel. This week, I had a viewer send through their Dota buff profile and asked me specifically to go over some Earth Spirit tips for them, reviewing some of their gameplay. So, to you, Taha, thank you so much for reaching out. I had a look through your last 10 games on Dota buff, and then just to see what your usual itemizations are, and then I've had a look at a couple of games specifically that I wanted to go over. Because you've got some really great ideas, but then you've got some other things that I think are a little bit misguided. You do some really great things I want to profile, want to highlight as well. So here you're trying to discourage your team from going for the first blood up top, and you're trying to make some plays down the bottom instead. You have really good presence of mind here to not overcommit, and you're trying to see what the Wind Ranger's got in terms of spells, which is really good. So here she reveals that she got Power Shot, so that's when you commit the Blood Grenade. That's really, really good. Typically you want to wait to see if they got Wind Run, because then they're kind of unkillable. Here you get super close. I think if it was me, I just keep going aggro as the second I see that Power Shot come out. You get pretty harassed here. If I were you, I'm typically planning to go Magic Wand, so I'm not a huge fan of this play that you make right here where you drop the branch and then eat it. It's just a cost efficiency thing. I would rather just ship out a second set of tangos, because that's 90 gold as opposed to you've invested the branch, which is 50, and then one tango, which is effectively 30 gold. So you spent 80 for what could have cost you theoretically 60. Especially in the early game, those little nuances in terms of cost efficiency can really add up. Plus, if you go Magic Wand, then you get the one extra stat, which converts to 24 extra HP, I believe, which in the super early game can be really effective. One thing I just want to highlight here as well, so you pull the wave, which is great, because you're 2 melee into 2 range, so you don't really want to lane normally. But when you're in positions like this, I've noticed a consistent, I don't want to call it a mistake, but just an inefficiency that you make, and there's another game that I'm going to review for you where you do the same thing. So Earth Spirit's strength is that he's got this reposition, right? So with Boulder Smash, you can use it on an enemy to kick them back, right? So anytime you've got the wave back here, the sirens are always going for me of, I could kick them underneath my tower, I could kick them underneath my tower, I could kick them underneath my tower. So I'm always trying to play around that, and especially when you get level 2, that's when it gets really strong. So let's just pause the game for 2 seconds. And just consider, if I start trying to kick these 2 heroes under tower, what's going to happen? So if I kick CM under tower, she's dead every time. With Wind Ranger, if I kick her under tower and she wind runs, she's probably going to survive. So I only really want to be kicking Wind Ranger underneath tower if I've confirmed that she's used Wind Run. So I either want to bait it out somehow or get my teammate to bait it out. And then once I'm confident it's on cooldown, I want to be the one initiating. And you notice that there's a certain point where your Magnus tries to initiate a skewer back. It should actually be you initiating with the combo first. So you want to roll in and then kick back past Magnus, so that Magnus just has to turn and then skewer under tower. And you've got a game where you're queued up with a friend of yours playing Spirit Breaker, and he initiates every time with charge. And what should really be happening is the other way around, where you're the one that initiates and kicks back, and then ideally he follows up with his stun to keep them underneath tower. So they're playing around here. You know, you're obviously still only at level 1, so there's not much that you can really do here in terms of getting that combo off, because if you run up, you're just going to get harassed, right? So one other thing I want to point out is that you queue up a Pavise here. In my opinion, this isn't the correct decision. The reason for that is if we look at the enemy team, so we've got Muerta, who, by the time you get Pavise online, is normally going to have a level 6. So yes, she does right-click damage, but the second that she ults, your Pavise is useless because it's only going to block physical damage, and she's doing magic damage at that point. With Undying, yes, he'll, clobber you, but what he's really going to be doing is sapping your HP pool, which deals magic damage, and then, to your credit, it will block a lot of the damage that the zombies spawned from Tombstone will do. Viper, by the time you've got Pavise online, is level 6. A lot of Viper's damage is just magical damage. CM, obviously, yes, does some right click, but mostly magical damage. Wind Ranger, which I think is the reason that you bought it, is because of Focus Fire, right? Which is totally fair, but it's very common for Wind Rangers to eventually go Maelstrom, and then a lot of that damage early game is actually from the Maelstrom procs, and not from the Focus Fire itself. So Pavise does feel a little bit lackluster here. Having looked through all of your games, your last 10 at least, I've noticed that you've never tried Veil of Discords. I would really like you to start experimenting with Veil. Number 1, an early Ring of Bazzi helps you and your offlaner out heaps in terms of mana regen. It just gives you, and you've got in particular, really good, what I would label as like mechanics hygiene. So for instance, one thing that I really like about your playstyle in particular, and you do this better than I do, is that you always have a stone remnant on cooldown. So you've always got one down somewhere. So you're really good about making sure that your spells are being used. And in general, it's very rare for you to be max mana, which is something that a lot of players struggle with. They don't realize that their mana regen is a resource to be used. And you in particular are really good about that. But yeah, for some reason, you always go Pavise, maybe just because it's a new item. And there are some games, you know, as I've done on the video that I did for the channel about Pavise, it is really strong situationally. But this just isn't the team lineup where it's strong against them. And I think, yeah, you kind of baited yourself a little bit. So I'm much more a fan of trying something like the Veil, because you've got to consider that, you know, when you look at who does magic damage. So you've got Shockwave and Skewer are both magical damage. RP is magical damage. All of your stuff is magical damage. Magnetise, if you get Magnetise and then a Veil off, it just absolutely shits out damage. If you go Necrophos, obviously he's got Death Pulse, which is magical damage. He's got Heartstopper Aura, which is magical damage as well. I think it technically works that it removes HP, so I'm not really sure how that interaction works. And then obviously he's got Scythe, so if he scythes somebody that you've put the Veil on, then it will actually amp that damage as well. You've got Scepter, who, you know, so Desolate is technically it's spell damage and it's dealt as pure, so Veil should boost that damage. The dagger is magical. But the main thing is, right, and then you've obviously got Omni Knight, who's just going to do, he deals damage, spell damage. So that's going to be amped by Veil. So I think Veil is really, really strong in this lineup. The only one that doesn't really benefit that much is Scepter. Your Spectre's got the right idea in terms of itemization. He's going to eventually go for Blade Mail, and that's going to counter, you know, the vast majority of their heroes are very glass cannony. So he's got the right idea. You don't really need to enable him that much with your items. But yeah, Pavise feels like a little bit of a bait. I can understand some of the thought process, but I don't think it's the ideal item here, just because of the way that the enemy team should itemize. Whether they do or not, I haven't actually looked that far in, but I know that Wind Ranger goes Maelstrom eventually, so I would encourage you to try Veil instead. I just want to highlight this little play, even though you don't do anything with it. This is something I really like about the way that you play. So you use this tree here, and then you've already dropped a Remnant just behind it. This is something that you in particular do better than I do. Like, you're always really cognizant about having your Remnants on a cooldown, something always, you know, regenerating, so you're using that cooldown cycle. And I really like when you do something like this, where you drop it in a place where it's actually useful. You had another game, that game that I alluded to, where you're laning with Spirit Breaker, where you dump one just in the middle of the lane. And I don't like that because it gives the enemy free information. And if they're smart about it, they know how to use that, right? You always want to be concealing whenever you're using a spell, so that the enemy have to consider that that might be available. It's a psychological thing in terms of the game. If you understand what resources the enemy have available, you can capitalize on that resource not being there if it's been used, right? The same way where if the lane is close to our tower and we know that Wind Ranger has Wind Run on cooldown, then we can initiate on her and kick her back counter tower, and she is just useless, right? So it's that whole thing, is that I don't want to be throwing spells in enemy line of sight unless I'm able to immediately use the resource. So this I'm really a fan of. So you have TP top here to help defend, and then you realize that you're not really needed, so you go and snipe their Wisdom Rune. Big fan of this play, especially with your additional, you know, movement that you get out of rolling Boulder. It's really good for just being able to get around the map. So I'm a big fan of this, especially as a pos 4 player. You should always be trying to eke out these small advantages where you can. Since Spectre's going back to lane, I have no issue with you, you know, using your Boulder Smash to CS. You should just be absorbing wherever you can. Really nice initiation out of the Spectre there. Unfortunately, you die first, which isn't great, but that is unfortunately just how this lane is going to go. You've got an Undying and a Viper, so they are committed to winning this lane. But yeah, I don't hate you trying to get some XP on the Spectre there. One other note here, skill build needs whack. So what you want to do is go Boulder Smash, Rolling Boulder, Boulder Smash, Geomagnetic Grip, and then we want to max out Rolling Boulder. We want to take Magnetise at 6, then once Rolling Boulder is maxed, we're going to want to level these two up equally. If this one's level 3, this one should be level 3, and it's only once they're even that we're then going to put another point in Boulder Smash. When you get to level 10, it's up to you If you think it's a really good Magnetise game, then take the Spell Amp. If you think it's not a great Magnetise game, then go the Rolling Boulder distance. If I'm especially in games like this, where I would advise you going around, playing around Veil, getting the Spell Amp and then the Veil as well, I would even take the Magnetise damage and duration at level 15. If it's a really strong Magnetise game, I would lean into that heavily. If it's not, then I'd play around my Rolling Boulder distance and damage talents. And then I would tend to go level 20, I think, every single time. I normally go the grip cooldown, but that's just because I like to have spells up more often. I think you like, in particular, going Octarine Core, so maybe you want to go away from cooldown talents and go your damage talents instead. But that's up to you, however you want to play it. But yeah, in terms of utility and spells, always having a value point in every single spell at level 4 is nearly always the correct move. There are very few cases where it isn't, but if you've got some sort of utility or status effect out of a spell, you always want to pick up at least 1 point of it in the first 4 levels. As we go forward here, this lane is really difficult to get value out of. So I would really, if I were you, be looking to, first of all, you don't have a TP, very bad. I would be kind of here, holding the tower for as long as possible, with the understanding that I'm probably eventually going to lose it, and I'm happy to, if it means that we can get a kill, go and TP somewhere, either, I mean, we normally want to only TP mid, because we got the twin gate, right? So otherwise we're making twin gate plays. If I were you, I would be asking the Omni Knight to try and wrap and place vision here, so that you know that whenever you use the twin gate, you're not being seen using it, because it will put you out of position, right? That would be my take is, you know, ask him to ward that if you can, and then try and play around them a bit more. But again, I don't hate you holding this tower. I think it is the correct move, since Omni Knight's not. Your tier 1 safe lane is really important in this meta. So I'm a big fan of, yeah, and you're really good about using your Boulder Smash correctly to get the last hit. So that's just good spell hygiene on your part. Here, again, I don't know if I spec the command that he was going to haunt and then do this, but if he did, I just say, hey man, in future, if you want to do that, can you just let me know? And then, because you could have really set up a play here, right? You could very easily, from this point, Rolling Boulder in, hit the Viper, and then kick him back underneath tower. Spectre could have haunted, immediately jumped onto him, Spectral Dagger, and he's probably dead. Even if the Tombstone comes out, he's probably dead, and then you just focus down the Tombstone. So maybe just a little bit of an miscommunication here, I don't know. But it seems like maybe you ping out that your ult's ready, and then he immediately goes, and it just feels like that's not the right moment. Because if I'm the enemy, the second this comes out, I'm just going back, because I understand that you're on the team. Like, I'm somebody who plays Earth Spirit. I understand that I'm in danger when I'm this far up and there's an Earth Spirit on the team, and a Magnus. Good players will understand that this, as a source of initiation, means that I need to go back. And what you ideally want is that by the time this comes out, they're already over here. Like, you want that to be the follow-up, not the initial. But that is what it is. That's just things to keep in mind, right? Is that you're in this weird spot as an Earth Spirit. You can play both initiation and counter-initiation, but in situations where they're near the tower, you always want to be initiating. You want to be first point of contact. But yeah, with a follow-up like that, where it's just they get to be on them for free, don't be afraid to initiate. Yeah, I don't hate this play. Use the Magnetise now. Good reprocs. I don't know what that little refocus of the camera was, but it's what I think maybe you just misclicked the minimap. There we go, so nice little double kill, good little play. But yeah, I think you just hover around here for a bit, which I don't hate. Again, just defending your tier 1. Go and help. Big kick, love it. Again, remember this procs on Magnetise as well, so it's another way to get value out of your Magnetise. If you Magnetise on one and then you drop a Remnant and there's another enemy hero here, then you actually get a free silence on all of them. So always, always, always value point, and this is why it's really strong. In situations like this, if I'm the CM, I'm freaking out. I'm trying to get under the tower and root you there, and then try and create distance, right? If she's silenced, you just get the jump on her. So there you go. She did it just too soon because she got scared. I like this chase from you. Keep reprocking, keep refreshing. Really good. Unfortunately, not quite enough damage. Spectre cleans up, and then you get to leave for free, which is nice. If we look at the damage, right, that's 180 compared to 300. factor in that most heroes are going to have, on average, 25% spell resist, right? So actually, those numbers are effective damage of 135 compared to 225, right? So our effective damage by putting more points into Boulder Smash isn't as good. The thing that really increases that we want value out of as we level it up is the slow, but the factor of it is that we have to hit it, right? Whereas if we put a single point in geomagnetic grip, then we've got a 2-second silence, a 2.5, a 3-second, a 3.5-second silence as we level it up. And silences are way stronger than slows. You can't do anything when you're silenced, right? You can only run. I would always prioritize having the ability to do both because it's just debilitating to play against. And then especially if you use your ult and then you throw that over everybody that's in the area, it's just ridiculously strong. The main reason that you want to max rolling boulder first is that you get extra distance. And that just means your initiations come from further out. It also does increase the stun, but the main reason you want it is for the distance. But yeah, it's just little plays there that honestly, like your late game in general, from what I've seen, is fine. It's literally just these little micro decisions in the early game, which I think are costing you games. Oh wait, yeah. You're just insta-in the way that I am. And then you get bad luck silenced, like I always get bad luck silenced. Kick your friend forward. Just a little bit unfortunate. Just so you know, I don't know if this was intentional or not, if you wanted to kick the Magnus. Okay, so at this point, in 7.32, I believe, is when they changed this mechanic. Boulder Smash has like a search radius of whatever unit. I think it's within like 300 radius of you, so it's pretty tight. But it used to be whatever unit was closest to you was the one that was getting kicked. They changed it to that they will search for a remnant first. And it will always prioritize a remnant, and then it will prioritize a unit. So in this situation, if you didn't want to kick the Magnus, always just drop a remnant first. And you can literally drop it like over the Magnus, and then as long as you don't click on the Magnus and you click somewhere over here, it should kick the remnant every single time. So yeah, it's not like in the old days where you had to click on the, on the unit itself and just rely on your positioning. It's literally place the remnant down, point where you want it to go, and then cast a spell. And Earth Spirit will just find the remnant and then kick it. Or if you can't find a remnant, then you'll find the nearest unit and then kick it. So that's just a little mechanical thing to keep in mind. Unless you want to kick the Magnus, in which case, never mind me, but I don't know why you would want to, because he immediately starts to just try and run away. But that's just a little mechanics thing. It's just, yeah, always throw those remnants down. You're really good about doing them anyway. When did you use that ult? Let's just slow this down to see exactly what you do. So, cast it. Nice. But it's proc. I like this. This is good. This is really, really good. Next thing I would do, assuming that she doesn't die. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing you can really do about this, which is unfortunate. Yeah, if I were you, before the Muerta dies, I would look to try and get a reproc and send it onto the Wind Ranger. And then if you had the point in geomagnetic grip, then you get a free silence because you could pull back over Undying, right? To proc a silence on her so that she can't use spells. But that's just, in the moment, stuff like that's really hard to find. Again, still magnetized. She's not. I'm always cognizant whenever Magnetise is up. I'm trying to proc it as much as I can. You still got 5 remnants, so you got plenty to play with. But I don't know if your priority is just trying to kill the Undying or trying not to die to the freezing field. You can see this is about to go off. You reproc it. It's really good. Like your mechanics around keeping up Magnetise are really good. I think the thing to work on for you is presence of mind about possibility of spreading it. Here, I don't like this play. This remnant should be over here because then it procs onto the CM, right? So, good presence. Again, I understand why you're doing it because your priority is keeping it up on Undying, but this remnant serves no purpose. Like, you don't actually have the means to capitalize on it being behind them. Putting it over here to proc and then kicking would make more sense. But these are micro decisions, and this is really, we're talking higher level gameplay. But these are things in the moment to think about because with Earth Spirit, like, sure, you attack for 102, but, like, you attack so slow. You attack once every 1.27 seconds. You're not really right-clicking in this. The main thing in every fight you're looking to do is just deal damage with your spells. So you always want to be cognizant of how can I maximize the damage that my spells are doing? And the way to do that is keep refreshing Magnetise and refresh it in ways where it's reprocking to other people. If they do things like they have a BKB, for example, so they purge the first one, then what you can do is you can actually reproc it during their BKB. So that's a really nice way to play around BKBs if they start coming out, is if there's one target that's still magnetized and one target purges it, you just place a Remnant and then it reprocs instantly. So that's something to keep in mind with Magnetise because it is dispellable until the point where you want to take the Magnetise undispellable talent. Again, that's just presence of mind. So place another one while we're rooted. Keeps it up, then you kick. Again, this play could have been done with this Remnant from over here. But, I mean, in the heat of the moment, mistakes are going to happen, right? It's not bad, it's just an inefficiency, and now we've talked about it, now you know. Again, place another one. We're trying not to die to the Undying, which is not going well for us. I mean, that's just all down to the Tombstone being up, right? That's all that was about. He's always going to win that if the Tombstone is up, just because your resources can't chip through what he's got. The way to really beat him would be to have an urn, but this is just not a good urn game. So situations like that, if the Tombstone is up, you don't want to be taking these fights because you're always going to lose them. But yeah, again, as you can see, like there are lots of fights here where you're losing, where just with little micro decisions that you're making, you could be making them a lot closer than they are. You know, you're 5-1 and 3, so you've had decent impact. If I'm, you know, really brutally honest with you, this number could be way higher. Like the set of numbers, you could have had much more impact. There are little things where people are escaping on slivers of HP, or just with little things around the way you're leveling up, could make things way more impactful for you. So I'll jump out of this one, and let's jump into that Spirit Breaker replay I was talking about. And there are a few things in here to me that really stood out in terms of early game that really might help to change your impact. This lane duo of Spirit Breaker and Earth Spirit can end up feeling kind of baity, right? Because you both have spells where you want to go in, and since the Spirit Breaker's abilities allow him to go in, you know, more consistently because he can't quote-unquote miss his spells, it actually ends up hurting you and ends up making you miss your spells because he's all about minor reposition, whereas you're about major reposition. So yeah, I do know that you two are duo queued, so this is why this is really important to think about, especially when you're playing in a duo, because you've got the advantage of your lane partner isn't a brain-dead AI bot, right? They're your friend who you're assumedly in constant communication with about what's going on. This is actually good because it means that we can start talking about more advanced strategy because you've got some sense of coordination going on, right? So level 1 in this lane feels really horrendous. This is very much same sort of thing. Level 2, right? Boulder smash and rolling boulder. We've got the potential to kick enemies back into our tower. So we have to be mindful of. So how do they counteract that? This guy just dives out, right? So if we want to kick the Phoenix underneath tower, we need to burn Icarus dive. Wraith King, he's a sitting duck once he's underneath. So you're eating a bunch of harass at level 1, which is just what you're going to deal with. I didn't like this play. The moment you put this here, I was like, oh no, he's going to contest this. And if they're smart, they're going to punish him. And then you just get insta-punished. I remember the moment I watched this, I was like, oh no. And then, I don't know if you want to write this off as space created or whatever, but like, First Blood. Here, I thought, just run up the hill and just go straight to the Ancients. Like, you're dead anyway. It doesn't matter if they know that this is the way that you're going. They can't do anything to stop you. So you should just run straight up this hill and just feed yourself to the Ancients. Instead, you run out and then you just give them... I appreciate that you're trying to juke, but you're on 23 HP, dude. Like, there's no way you're surviving that. Just go and feed yourself and just call it a day. Like, you don't want to give this guy First Blood because it just makes the lane impossible. But yeah, you know, mistakes made. We learn. So yeah, level 1 always sucks on our Spirit. We always want to be playing around our level 2 timing. So level 2 we feel more confident now, but we've already died once, so it feels bad. But yeah, just soaking XP. Try to side pull, it is what it is. He's going to put damage on you, it is what it is. Yeah, you see, you ping this out. So you tell your buddy that obviously you want to go on him. You should be the one going in first. And then he can probably follow up with a charge, try and force the Icarus dive out. Yeah, so you do it this way, and then it's just like... Now he just puts a ton of damage on you instead, and then you want to make him use this Icarus dive defensively rather than offensively. Since he's initiated, you can't actually kick him back. So that's just small things, right? You want to be the one going in first, and then he can follow up with his charge to push them even further back. I like that play. Take the Lotus. Again, more of the same, right? he's initiating and then we're trying to follow up, and we're just not getting the follow-up because the second that he's charged, he's committed, and then they're just going to start bullying you again. So you actually want to be counterintuitive. You want to be the one going in, because then you're more likely, right? If we run that back, the moment he goes to charge, if we think about this logically, right? If we're the ones to initiate, who's going to hit? Like, you're going to more likely hit the Phoenix, right? Whereas the second he charges in, the second you try to follow up, Wraith King is going to block you coming in. So that's something to think about, is how the order of spells causes a fight to play out, right? Because we're broadcasting information. The second they hear this charge sound, they know exactly what's happening. They can see that he's moving towards the Phoenix. So they understand the logical thing is that you're going to want to stun follow up, right? So that's why he's going to block. A good player is always going to block this because they don't want the Phoenix to die. So you end up, you know, and he positions himself so that he can get in the way. Stuns out, blocks the stun. You know, if you both hit your spells on the Phoenix, he actually dies there. So that should be you going first, and then he follows up. Because his stun can't miss, yours can. So that's just like little things to keep in mind, is that the way that spell interactions work, and you know what things are always going to hit, what things are essentially a skill shot, and what the enemy counterplay is. And then you've got to play accordingly. If your buddy says that he wants to charge, then you've got to initiate first. And it feels real bad if it misses, but those are just the risks that you have to, you know, take when you play Earth Spirit, and that's what makes Earth Spirit super engaging for me as a player. It's high risk, high reward. If I hit my stun, then he's dead. If I don't hit my stun, then we're dead. And when we play it this way, where we're kind of playing scared, we're going to die anyway, because I'm not going to hit my stun, because they should be smart enough to understand that that's the suboptimal play and then punish it as they do. But yeah, I mean, that's good presence of mind from you to Boulder Smash to slow them so that they can't close out that kill. Now, unfortunately, you just don't have the damage to kill the Wraith King. And these are the things I'm talking about in those like micro decisions. That level 1 overextension now makes this so much harder to get value out of. You know, you're trying for the snipe. I respect it. You know, you whiff. It is what it is. Don't worry about it. Game is hard, etc., etc. And then so your itemization here, right? I think this is really good. So you're going Medallion. You have one hero that likes low armor. You have one hero, you know, that deals more physical damage out of Little Shredder. So you're a team full of physical damage and you go Medallion. Really, really good insight into the game from you. And then as well, they have no agility heroes, so they're all going to be pretty low armor. So this is just really smart itemization from you. I really like Medallion first here. If I'm you here and you go to make that stun, just literally walk a little bit to the right. Just stand behind this tree and then do this. Like, I know this is all stuff you know, but just in the heat of the moment you panic, you make a mistake. Because, right, you just, here I am out in the open and I'm committing to a stun with a boulder that they're then going to put me like all the way back here, because if I'm the Wraith King, I've got boots and I'm just going to go whoop or whoop, and then I'm just going to avoid it, right? Because I know as a player that you go in a straight line. Like, I've been hit by this spell. I've cast this spell hundreds of times. I just walk. And then, oh dear God, what's happening? But you know, I can totally appreciate the thought in terms of wanting to line up stuns and set up stuns, but just a little bit of presence of mind in terms of positioning before we commit those spells. And then yeah, that was a really good Remnant. Really good position to use it anywhere, and then good moment to use it in general. Even though it feels bad, Buddy gets punished, we're doing our best to save him. This lane has mainly gone sideways, literally because of our first blood. The first death is like crippling. Like, I had a game the other day where I went mid-puck, and I died first into my Void Spirit that I was playing against, and then I TP'd back and just immediately died again, and the game was just done. I made one small micro mistake in terms of baiting him back into a tower, and then trying to go on him, and I didn't spot that he leveled up, and he just astral stepped me and I instantly died. And then it was just like, the first death was just game over. And this is sort of, you know, the same thing that's happening, is that you died first, and it just made this lane sort of impossible to win. It totally relied on them making a mistake. That's just unlucky on the distance. Again, we've made the same mistake here. So we've gone 2 points, and then Geomantic Grip isn't leveled at all. This should be 2-1-1 at this point. Because now we have the option, right? If Phoenix overextends, and we stun him from here. So if we put a Remnant here, and then we stun out, we can kick back, and then we can silence him so he can't Icarus dive. So we actually have kill threat on Phoenix at level 4 if we skill correctly. And because we haven't, we still don't. So that's just, again, little micro decision. That might have been a way to pull back into this game. But yeah, I like this follow-up stun. But then yeah, Phoenix just kites back, then he Icarus dives aggressively, and then you're gonna die. So yeah, just unfortunate in terms of how we're leveling. Is causing us to get punished a lot. In all honesty here, I don't hate an earn as well. I don't think you end up getting one, but I don't hate one. Even though you are losing the game. Like, it's cheap items that give you in-game impact. So you're sitting mid, soaking XP. I don't hate this. I think this is actually the correct move for you. Okay, you got your level 6 now. Okay, this TP, I'll be honest, I don't love. The reason for it is that they've just shown that they have numbers here, and nobody is low. You're really just sort of feeding here. Yeah, unfortunately, I have the same issue as well, is that Magnetise when you're behind feels really bad. Magnetise when you're on even footing or ahead feels really good. So unfortunately, this is just not the greatest of plays. The enemy do some overextending. But unfortunately, doesn't matter. But yeah, you guys are just getting abused here. So yeah, little micro mistake there in terms of going in when you're behind. In situations like that, you really want to fish for the kickback. That's like literally your only play in my opinion. Because going in there with the Magnetise when you don't have numbers advantage, it's just really hard to convert. Here you can see you've got numbers advantage and you've got resource advantage. So that's why you're able to get those kills. But yeah, this is... Oh, okay, Phoenix lets you have it for some reason. Oh yeah, he just didn't have his cooldowns. Okay, fair enough. I like this pickup. I don't think this item is picked up nearly enough. This is really good game sense from you. So you're a really capable player. Like, there's just micro decisions that you're making in the heat of the moment. Maybe it's just panic setting in, I don't know. You got really good game waste. You see, even now, it's before 14 minutes, you've got this really good timing. Just get the free rune. Do you TP out? Yeah, TP out, take ours. Good game sense, dude. Really, really good. This is the same exact move that I make all the time. So one thing here, you don't go for the immediate kickback play. You go for the roll and then you just hold your abilities. Like, to me at this point, the second I'm going in, I'm never afraid in the, especially if we're behind, I'm trying to leverage every advantage I can get in these fights. So I'm rolling in, I'm magnetizing, I'm kicking back, trying to do whatever I can for repositioning purposes. It depends whether you want to help your Weaver get out or whether you want to help commit the fight, right? So if you want to help Weaver get out, then you kick in this way. If you want to commit to the fight, then you kick in this way. It all depends what you want to do. So you roll in, then you don't magnetize for some reason. I assume it's because you're trying to get the value. But yeah, now instead, this is just like really poor for us. And then we go in, and now we magnetize? Now surely we magnetize, right? Yeah. So this is all just mechanic stuff, right? There's gonna be a point where, he's not a ranged hero. If he wants to hit somebody, he's gotta come in. Otherwise, he's standing back there casting spells and, throwing. So we always want to be using our ult and just keep refreshing it, because there's gonna be a point he's gonna step up and then we're gonna put it on both. As long as you're constantly dropping those remnants, then you're Gucci. You've got 6 to play with. You've got plenty to play with here. So the second we commit to this fight, boom, right now, I'm using Magnetise. And then what I'm doing is I'm starting to place remnants over here. I'm fishing for the proc onto the ogre. And once I've got it, if I had my silence, then he's just useless. He is just a big, fat, stupid ogre who just sitting here looking sad. Because he can't do anything, right, if he's silenced. And then I'm able to reproc it on him, I can kick the remnant either way and slow both of them. So yeah, and I had the same issue all the time. It's not an echo slam. Like, you don't need to wait for them to group up to get value out of this. You just magnetize on one, and then this is your resource. That's always what you should be playing around. Because yeah, here they just get a bunch of free value where he could be taking damage. Like he's slowly life-stealing, right? Because he's got Mask of Madness. So if you Magnetise onto him, you're probably negating all of this lifesteal that he's doing. Yeah, you see, and now just so much damage that comes out. Be a little bit more greedy. I know that it's a long cooldown, so it feels bad to use only on one. But if you've got remnants, then don't be afraid to. And just get used to how your remnant placement dynamically interacts. Because it goes further than you think it would. One thing, it's a support main, right here. Okay, yes, it's only a sentry. If you know that you want to place a ward here, don't deward the sentry. I know it feels bad to. Any support player who's worth their salt will realize, hey, I put a sentry there and now it's not there. Odds are there's going to be an obs there. So they're going to want to eventually come back and deward this. If you don't deward it, yes, you're taking a risk and that they might come back and check anyway. But more than likely what's going to happen is they're going to see the sentry is here and they're just going to assume that since you haven't dewarded it, that there's not vision here. So what you do instead is that you deward it, and then you immediately put an obs there, and you've just told them, hey, you should probably recheck this spot. So if I do this, I'm playing the next level bait of, hey, I've dewarded this, you should probably come and put a sentry here. I'm placing my obs here, I'm placing my obs here, or I'm going and checking whether they've got something up here and then placing my obs there instead. So that they're essentially going to commit resources somewhere where they're getting no value from it, and then I've just wasted a sentry, right? This is the whole thing about trying to be a drain on the enemy team's economy as support. These are the ways that you do it. You mess with their mind about where you might have vision or where you might not, so that they start committing things in places where they're getting no value, and then they've just wasted a resource, and you've done economic damage. But that's just a general thing to check. It's why I did the whole series on the channel about what skills give vision and what don't, so that you can play all these mind games with people and you can get way more value out of your sentries to check high ground spots that you would otherwise need to commit them, where you can get more value out of covering them. But that's another thing for another video. Just in situations like that, if you know that you're dewarding a cliff, just don't put an obs there, because a smart player will punish you for it. Making a smoke play. Smoking questionably under possible vision, but, you know, anyway, it is what it is. Making a play on the Slardar. Unlucky roll. Okay, now, I'm gonna nitpick because this is your buddy. If I were you, I would ask him to hold his charge and ask him to follow up on you, right? If we run it back, this Slardar is just farming a camp, right? You're all smoked. He's got no idea that you're coming. There's no reason for him to be charging in so gung-ho. Like, you guys will get the jump. It should be him on the second stun. So he should be chaining his stun with you. You should be the one stunning here, because you've got the advantage. You're all smoked. He's the only one that's not. He can gap close really, really easily, even though he's not, you know, he's being seen. There is absolutely no reason why he should be the one going in first. But, you know, that's a small thing. He's probably just in the heat of the moment, not paying attention to where you guys are. Doesn't want to give it away, so he wants to gap close, but... You know, if he waits 2 seconds, you hit this stun. But, you know, is it gonna matter? Probably not. But Snapfire gets you covered anyway. What happens? The big leap. He's just dead. Yeah. Smoke again. Love it. Love it. You know what they didn't expect the first time? The smoke play. You know what they won't expect? The double smoke play. Okay, we've done it again. Where is the rest of our team? They're all the way back here. We're charging in. We've just found 2. There are 4 up. It's about to be 5. Where do we think a team fight is happening? And we don't have the numbers because we have no info on where the rest of the enemy team is, right? For all you know, you're running into 4 right here. And then, yeah, you make the right decision and back off. But then suddenly, team fight breaks out. Yeah. Look, I'm not surprised that this happened. If you'd asked me in that moment, the second I saw the Spirit Breaker charging, If this was an option of possibilities, I would have said 100% yes, because your information here told you that it was more than likely they were all going to be here ready for this, because you have no info, right? This is why I harp on all the time about when I did my role guides. So important for cores to always be pushing lanes, because this is just free info. It forces enemies to show, and the second that they show, you have information on them, right? At that point, you had no information on enemy locations. You had no deep wards, no whatever, right? If you ask any player who's worth their salt based off that information, they understand that that is probably what's going to happen, because the map is dark and full of terrors, and therefore the enemy is always grouped, because that's just what happens. Something to be mindful of before you commit to those fights. What info do we have? Who can be there? Because more than likely, if they can be there, they will be there. But yeah, I mean, you obviously, as you know, you end up losing this game. I think there's a lot to be said for your skill build-up, I think is the main perpetrator of why you're losing a lot of these games. But then there are aspects of itemization that go into it as well. Picking up a Pavise at this point, it's 25 minutes into the game. It's a 300 physical damage shield. Phoenix doesn't care because all magical damage. The Ogre doesn't really care because mostly magical damage. Queen of Pain doesn't really care because mostly magical damage. The Wraith King doesn't really care because, well, he's hitting for over 200 anyway. He's gonna 1 or 2 shot you, right? Because he gets critical damage strike, so that'll help you survive 1 auto attack from the Wraith King. Slardar got Echo Saber. If he procs an Echo Saber on you, that's already burnt through the 300 of the Pavise. So second item, Pavise here, doesn't feel like the play. It's, you know, Pavise is a first item pickup pretty much always, because the value of it gets diminishing returns as the game goes longer and longer and the enemy team start getting items online. So against physical damage lineups, it can be the first play, but you were completely correct in getting Medallion first item this game, in my opinion, because of the way that it enabled your team. But that meant that Pavise is no longer an option. Like, Pavise, in my mind, is exclusively first item pickup, and if there's anything that's a better item than Pavise's first item, you shouldn't be going Pavise at all. I'll save you the pain of rewatching the eventual loss of this game. Main takeaways for you: your skill build up, making sure that we've got that point in GM8 into grip at level 4. I mean, I don't even hate getting it level 5, but making sure that we've got a point in it before we level Magnetise. Other things are, consider picking up Veil. I haven't seen you pick it up in your last 10 games, so start playing around that. Let me just show you quickly. I'll load into a demo game. If we grab a Veil.
Remember, it's all on you here. A lot of pressure.
So you see, look, he even says a voice line. Like, he's meant to carry this item. So with Veil, right? So the biggest bait that people think is that, oh, well, I've got the Veil, I have to cast it first and then do all my things, right? No. So what we do, stand in trees, and then we go for our stun. Once we know it's going to hit, then we go drop it, and then we hit, right? So we can cast Veil during our roll, which is really, really strong. So it means that we don't have to commit anything before we put the Veil on, right? So say if we had an enemy that was like pushed up to the tower, right? So we hide back here, we go bang, and I go quick cast, bang, and then we kick them back. Let's make an artificial forest, shall we? So if we decide that it's Marcy's turn to die, so bang, 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 then we kick her back. And then the other thing I want to do is get that working in as well, right? So our full combo, and you can see here, right, if I stand on top of Marcy and then go to kick, it kicks the Boulder. So we'll always prioritize a Boulder, so you can always just place a Boulder on top of somebody and then kick, right? So you can see where my cursor is coming all the way over here. Can even do like, just drop it that way, so I don't even need to be pointed on her to drop it. I'm just self-casting the Remnant, and then I can put my mouse wherever. And that's the benefit of quick cast. So what we need to get used to is doing the combo where we go roll in, drop the Remnant there, and then we drop one behind and then pull in. So that's going to be our full combo, right? They get up near the tower, time to punish, bang, 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 bang. I think I couldn't actually got that second Boulder smash. I'm cheating because I have free spells. Pull her back out of tower. Let's do the whole thing again. Bang, 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 bang. And then we can go that if we really want. There are really, really effective combos that you can be using even from level 2. Never underestimate the power of the roll and kickback. Let's go to Spell Amp just to show you. So she's got 1300 HP. Let's give her some fluffy hats. There we go. 1500 HP. We're just reprocking wherever we can. We're stunning whenever we can. Reprocking. There we go. You know, we can do a fair amount of damage really quickly. But yeah, I would just really encourage you to get used to doing things like getting that combo of rolling in and then using items. And you can do the same thing with Urn. Like, you can cast an Urn charge while you're rolling in. You can go place Remnants while you're rolling, you know, if you wanted to prep you one to pull back, whatever. Say if I were to miss that stun, but I can pull that in while I'm rolling. So you can start doing all these weird geometric plays where you're like, you know, where you go to roll, and then you pull one through as you're rolling away. Lots of really dynamic ways that you can play this hero. That's what makes him so fun. Start playing around with things like, you know, I like a Yules sometimes for the dispel on myself so that I can get away. You know, play around Aether Lens. The Aether Lens shard combination is ridiculously strong. So Geoman into grip means that with an Aether Lens, I can pull a target, I can pull an ally out of a fight from that far away, you know. If you're playing a support, this is a ridiculously strong save. Like that, it just comes all the way back to me. If they're in a chrono, just pull them out. I think the only thing is Black Hole you can't pull them out of. See, it says it won't work on a unit inside Chronosphere, but I'm pretty sure it does. I'm pretty sure I've done it. Oh, I lied. You know what it is? It's this, because this is what I always do. You do this, and then you go and chant, and then you pull them out because they're not a hero anymore. That's what it is. So yeah, that's the dope save. As you go this, and then you pull them, and then you kick them away. You do that, that is real Chad behavior, and I'll be so proud of you. I want that to be your mission. Play around this more. This is super fun. The ability to do stuff like this, just go bye-bye, and then you come with me, and then you're under a tower or whatever. It's so fun. Yeah, this reposition abilities is what I love most about this game. It's why I'm a Tusk enjoyer. Hope that helped. Esprit, super strong. Play around as util. Start experimenting with the Zags and Aether Lens. Don't get suckered into I can only buy Urn every game or Pavise every game. Try Veil. It can be really good for helping you snowball in the right team lineup. And then in certain lineups, yeah, you're already doing good with the Medallion. Just don't always commit to the Solar Crest. And yeah, don't be afraid to initiate. Like, that's your job. It says right here. Any other questions? Feel free. You know how to get in contact. Besides that, have a good one.